Hi, this is Dale Matthews, and I have here with me Mike Jones. We're going to be talking a little bit tonight about videotape that showed up on TV channels, about the things that we've done, about some of the feedback that we've been getting from people, about the work that we do, and about slander and libel laws as redefined by Cherryl Walker. Hi, Mike.
Howdy. Yes, we get some interesting stuff happening on social media, and interesting stuff in the news that directly relates to what we do.
Well, one of the things that happened is that there was a critical story of Simon Hare and how when he walked up to take the oath of office that everyone was kind of giving him the silent treatment, the cold shoulder. They were showing him that they didn't like him by not applauding as he walked up. The only problem with that story is nobody applauded for anybody as they walked up. They only applauded for people once they had taken the oath of office. So we had noticed that that Channel 12, KDRV, had done a story about this. And I called the news director and I said, so why did you do that? We were at the same thing, and that's not what happened. It's not that I love Simon Hare or some of the things he said or done. He's got a lot of problems with things, but this is false. And so we cannot criticize somebody by lying about them. That's not what good people do. And no matter which way the chips fall, what we're supposed to do is be truthful, and then you can decide for yourself. Now, so then KDRV apologized for the story. For those who think, oh well, that BadCounty and that Mike Jones and Dale Matthews, they got it totally wrong. Why would Channel 12 then apologize? See, that doesn't make any sense. So yeah, unfortunately, we caught them in not just making a mistake, but actually fabricating a story. I'm not making this up. They came to the same event we were at. They had a preconceived notion, according to them, about what they were going to see, and they did a story not based on what happened, but based on that preconceived notion. And Mike, do you have that apology ready to play?
Yes, I do.
Just check this out and see. I called it an apology. They call it a clarification. Live internet TV.
It was suggested to use Watch 12, but that was a form of a silent protest against specifically Simon Hare.
In fact, all or nearly all in attendance did applaud Hare being sworn into office for the second term.
Okay.
All right, that was really awful audio. Couldn't understand it at all. You had it playing perfectly before. Do you want to give it another try?
Yeah, here, hang on a minute.
Sorry, everybody. You know it's live.
Newswatch 12 wants to clarify a story we aired Monday evening.
When 3 newly elected Josephine County officials were sworn into office, the audience members held their applause until the completion of the oaths. It was suggested to Newswatch 12 that that was a form of a silent protest against specifically Simon Hare.
In fact, all or nearly all in attendance did applaud Hare being sworn into office for the second term.
Was that any better for you?
Oh, yeah. Now all anybody has to do... Oh, I'm getting feedback here.
Okay.
Now all of our viewers, all they need to do is remember the video that they saw with the bad audio and then combine it mentally with the great audio but no video at all.
Oh, well, you did. Yeah,
what do you want? Come on, this is free. There are no advertisements.
That worked perfectly well with the exact same settings here last night.
Right. So we're doing what we can. Thank you, Mike. So they called it a clarification. Well, they didn't call it an apology. We apologized to Simon Hare. That would have been a good start. And we apologize to all the public, another good thing, for completely making up this story. And again, it wasn't just it might have been an error in judgment, but it was not just some error that they made. Oh, we thought that, no. And they also said that that story of Simon Hare being snubbed had been suggested to them.
Mm-hmm.
So, Mike, who do you think suggested such a story to them?
I have no idea. Obviously, somebody did, or it's either that or that is the story that they're using to rationalize having screwed that up so badly.
It might be that their reporter came back and suggested, hey, here's the story, although
right.
the videotape wouldn't have borne that out. And while the reporter may have done the editing, if somebody else did the editing, one would only hope that that person would step up and say, you know what, I know Randa Gore says this what's happened, but the tape doesn't show that. They could have saved themselves. Now it's similar to Simon Hare's apology for what he did to that family. It wasn't so much the thing that he did while he was drunken. Okay, there are people who, there's one guy especially who has said that Simon Hare is blameless. It's the family that's at blame because they allowed a drunken commissioner to use their cell phone while they weren't watching. Really?
Yeah.
But he threatened the family. He threatened them, and afterwards he wrote this apology when he was stone cold sober, and the apology kind of blames everybody. Well, there's people out in the community who would like to bring me down, and they just want to criticize me because of my lofty position. No, it's because you did a stupid thing, and now he lied about it by talking about how the family, we've achieved some kind of agreement. No, they have not achieved any kind of agreement. The Deakins family says so. Oh, and one of my favorites is the guy that is saying that that Deakins, this is the family of the high school girl who got one of the texts, that they were seeking their 10 minutes of fame. Really? What other kinds of things have been written about us and about this story that you've seen on social media?
Well, I mean, not everybody is a complete lunkhead. These are a couple of comments from people who posted the KDR or the BadCounty reveals critical KDRV 12 story about Simon Hare was fabricated story. One is Jimmy Evans, and this is posted on IV Rants and Raves. It says, whatever our personal politics and views, I would hope in the interest of truth that all of us would find repulsive, unjust, and irresponsible of KDRV to have fabricated the following report on Simon Hare. KDRV 12 should not only retract the story on air but publicly apologize to Mr. Hare and their viewing audience. A tip of the hat here to Dale Matthews for standing up for public truth and despite his own personal reservations.
Well, one reason why it was perfect for us to do this story, besides the fact that there's no media criticism of any kind and hasn't been for a decade or plus. I've only been here 15 years. We never see criticism of any media because they've got kind of this gentleman's agreement. Let's never criticize each other. You know, no, that needs to end, and we're going to help on that. If they screw up, and if the commissioners screw up, and if somebody in the audience screws up, well, we're going to say so. And we mention people by name because, oh, do you have to talk about people by name? Yes.
Well, there's also a Terry Hicks who posted the exact same video on Josephine County Neighborhood Chat. These Facebook pages are enjoying large popularity now. This particular page, I believe, has a little over 4,000 members. It says, I have no problem with people holding Simon Hare accountable for his actions. I do object to false reporting to make up a story when the one they expected didn't materialize. Kudos to Dale Matthews for showing how unbiased reporting should be, especially when it is no secret there isn't any love lost between these two men. KDRV owes Mr. Hare an apology, in my opinion.
Well, KDRV did not give him an apology that we know of. They did not apologize to their audience, and it's actually perfect that we were the ones to reveal this because it is well known that we have seen a number of instances, and we've got probably 100 videos out of 500 or 600 that feature Simon Hare telling untruths in one way or another, or manipulating the facts, or just flat out saying, I never said that. There's one of my favorite episodes is Simon Hare says, I never said that. And now he says this kind of thing during the commissioner's protected time at the end where people can't answer. Why, you're scurrilous and you're not telling the truth. And you've got to sit there and take it because that's their rules. See, you're not allowed to respond. Well, I never said that. So I came back a week later with the audio and the video of him saying exactly what I said that he said. And I started to play it at the weekly business session through the little microphone there during my 3 minutes. And he actually got up, went over, he had to walk over and cut the power because he said, what you're talking about is irrelevant. Really?
Well, yes, that's that's Josephine County. Who was that?
Who was that?
Yeah, was that Simon Hare that did that?
Yeah, that was Simon Hare.
I'll be darned.
Yeah, you're irrelevant. You know what? We don't need the facts around here. He had said something that was untrue. He had accused me of lying, and I have it on tape. There he is, and he's doing it. And it wasn't us. Go ahead.
Well, and speaking of accusations of that sort, Sue Shannon says, seriously, I have no respect for Dale Matthews. He's just another rebel rouser. In my opinion, Mark Seligman, Dale Matthews, and Sandy Casanelli, they're all in cahoots with each other.
We're part of some old Western movie. We're in cahoots.
Well, it's a Western, but it's based somewhere in the East because you're a rebel rouser.
That's right, yeah. Obviously, she meant rabble-rouser.
Yes, I think.
And I believe, according to our history of the United States of America, that it is occasionally important to rouse the rebels.
Yes, indeed. Well, so, I mean, you're not universally loved or hated on these sites, but you are getting some play. And it's good to see the stuff out there. I think anytime when people are more informed, that's a good thing. Anytime when they're talking about it, it's a good thing. Well,
you may recall that it was Sherry Adkins who was the campaign manager for Mark Gatlin, and Sherry Adkins was the one that put together the protest rally out in front of the courthouse to call for Simon Hare's resignation. She was Mark Gatlin's campaign manager, and he ran against Simon. She didn't come to the rally, and she has since said, well, I'm going to be there when he takes the oath of office, and we're going to have signs out in front of the courthouse. Well, she didn't do that either. But Sherry Adkins, in her struggle to be relevant to anything that's happening in the community, at one point she was at a meeting of SORA, Southern Oregon Resource Alliance, and I had said to people there, I'm going to start videotaping the county commissioners in their meetings because it's allowed by law, and the other is I think it would be valuable to see what they're up to. And she put her head in her hands and was moving her head back and forth, and it was the world's worst possible idea that we would hold these commissioners accountable by what they've actually said, and then to be able to prove that's what they said.
Well, you know what? Some people abhor confrontation. They think that nothing good can come from confrontation. Although they put up with being confronted by authority figures all the time. It's an odd way of thinking, but
this has happened at the weekly business session in the Ann Basker. There was the time when the police issued their official report. Now, this was their bottom line, and they came to the conclusion, and they typed it in their report, that Simon Hare had filed a false police report. This is not speculation. Oh, well, he wasn't prosecuted. The police said, well, they're not infallible, but the police came to the official conclusion that Simon Hare had deceived them.
Mm-hmm.
So I read straight from their report, at the weekly business session. Cherryl Walker stopped me and said, "That's hearsay." No, that's reading from, that's reading from the official report. Well, you weren't there in the bar where he lost his car. Somewhere.
Oh, right.
Got to be somewhere in this bar. So, and then there's always the question of, from both these incidents, how did he get home? Is this guy driving around town drunk? And is it a miracle that no one's died, including this poor guy, but also maybe somebody else that's not guilty of anything except just being in his way? So she didn't like that. Now later she had said she made up another new rule, where you cannot criticize anyone in government unless they're in the room. Really? So it's very easy. All that department heads need to do is come to that meeting, say their thing, run out the door, and you can't respond. You certainly can't ask them a question.
I just don't. I don't think she thought that one through very well, and thought about how stupid she was going to look for having said it.
Well, then she said, when you say these kinds of things, criticizing government, oh, not criticizing government, what a terrible idea. I mean, we were just founded on this, right? The world's most powerful government. We criticize them. Oh, you can't do that. It was Alexander Hamilton who had said, it cannot be libelous if it's true. And we started that tradition here in America. It goes back a little ways. Alexander Hamilton didn't die last week. And there's libel, which is written, and there's slander. See, I need to know this. There's slander, which is voiced. And in order to say something that's slanderous, one is you have to be saying something that you know is false. It can't be your opinion, which you're not sure about. That can never be slander. Listen very carefully. It cannot be slander if it's your real feeling, okay? So, and how could anyone prove anything differently? Well, if you say to a friend, I know this isn't true, but I'm going to say it at the weekly business session. Okay, that's step one. Step two is you have to say it with an intention to damage somebody. Well, I think I'm going to affect this guy's business, and that's why I'm going to do it. And three, you have to actually show, and this is the one that just makes everything impossible, you have to show economic damage to the victim. So if you go, as you often do, to the weekly business session and say something that's totally false, Mike Jones, and you know that it's false, unless Keith Heck can show that you're damaging his business, it's not slander.
Right.
Now, of course, you never do that. But my point is, people are always saying, well, I don't think you should get a chance to say that to the commissioners. No. Well, no, wait, this is a business session. You must keep it only to the items on the agenda. No. People can go there, and if they really want to, they can talk about black helicopters. That's not on the agenda.
Oh, it's happened before. As a matter of fact, it's fairly routine that someone comes in and talks about something that is totally misunderstood or not understood by anybody but the person speaking.
Yes, Rika Brown comes in and she talks about raking up your leaves and mulching and that kind of stuff. It's never on the agenda. And nobody's jumping all over Rika saying, Rika, stop talking about leaves and this kind of stuff. This is the time for the public to say what they want, and it does not need to be part of the official agenda. We come up and we talk about things the commissioners have done or not done, like a $100,000 cost overrun on the Dimick Tower, and they try to say that that's not relevant. What? It's about the commissioners. Yeah. It's about what they're doing. It's about, the fact that they're spending money, and they say a $100,000 cost overrun is somehow in the budget. Now, wait a minute. How is that not relevant to county politics?
Well, it depends on whether you believe that damages you politically, So maybe they can redefine slander somehow as being it has damaged me politically, therefore I'm going to sue you.
Now, none of that's going to happen. Look, the other thing is I've had people at these sessions say, well, I'm standing up here, but I don't want a camera pointed at me by Dale Matthews. I don't want any cameras. Now, there's 3 other cameras in the room.
Right.
So, and they're going out on live cable television. And so the fact that this camera is pointed at them, I'm glad that it is, because their last weekly business session, they did it again. Most of the meeting is missing, so we shoot this stuff from beginning to end, and we'll put up our version of it so that you can see that weekly business. If you really want to, we're going to put that up. But they're constantly spending tens of thousands of dollars and in a department that's dedicated to doing this, and they're blowing it all the time.
Yeah, and the funny thing about this is they just hired, this is the county that doesn't have any money, just hired some brand new IT guy who is costing them 60, 70, 80 grand a year, and his whole department has to do with producing these videos and whatever, and for the last month and a half they haven't been able to do it right.
Well, that's not all that IT does, but that is all of the money that we get from Charter Cable. They must pay money into the county so that they get a monopoly. That's true. And so they just spent, I think it was $20,000 on all kinds of equipment, and they can't get the. If you ever want to see the perfect example of misspending by the commissioners, just a little example is when you go into the Ambassador and you look above the heads of the commissioners, and you look over there next to one of the cameras that's up there. There's a high definition display. It's a medium-sized one, and it's always dark. Now, why do they have a high definition display? To show the camera. No. They don't do that anymore. And has nothing to do with the video, because you cannot buy that even though you pay for it. Not at any price. They will never sell that to you. We won't sell it to you either. We'll give it to you for free. But so you can no longer buy that from them. That's under the orders of Cherryl Walker. So what is this thing? It's an electronic timer. It's a high-definition monitor. Yes. And it's supposed to have the time on there, a countdown from 3 minutes to 0, so you'll know when your time is up, even though there's a timer right there. They've never used it. It's a high-definition monitor just to show a little clock.
Well, and the funny thing about that is I would not have known what that was, except for the other day, inadvertently, out of the blue, it was on, and it had like 31 on it or something like that, that it was frozen in that position. And it was on for the entire weekly business session, and then I haven't seen it on again since then. So
when we go in,
who knows what's happening back there.
You're instrumental in this. When we go in, and we provide the documents that should be provided to citizens, and we put them on the table as you walk in the door so that you get a chance to look through those and see what's happening today, and we provide those, and those cost us 12 cents to provide those, and the commissioners say, we don't have enough money to provide such transparency for the public. And then they've got this high-definition display up there that's not being used for anything. Well, one, it shows a bias toward high-tech instead of low-tech, and the other is it's the perfect indication of how they're wasting our money on an everyday basis.
Yep.